I just want to talk about Calvin Kattar, seeing as he's one of these action fighters that is on a really unfortunate skid right now. And there are a few turning points in the career here that I really want to speak on, and how he was sort of done dirty by the UFC. So let's get into it. I will bring up his Wikipedia because I found an interesting little tidbit in here of his early training days. And how he used to train with Nick and Nate Diaz when he was 19 years old, and how that really influenced his training. He says here, "I'm out there dogging it out. I'm all by myself. It was a great opportunity to basically see how hard people train. That the Diaz brothers out there training at 1 a.m., probably high as a kite, just training all through the night." And so Calvin Kattar developed a lot of early sort of grit and toughness, and that really led to a phenomenal start in his pro career, just starching people on regionals. He's a great boxer, few submissions in there, and some good decision work as well, just cooking through regionals. Enters the UFC with a nice 16-2 record. Calvin Kattar is a tall 5'11" for the featherweight weight class. 72-inch reach is real good, so that really plays into his sort of boxing style. He's very fleet of foot, great jab, fast hands, not a ton of thud in his punches, but very fast hands, stands orthodox. Born in 88, he is an older guy, came into the UFC not the youngest. Strikes landed per minute's good, not a big takedown guy. He's had a lot of high volume performances, and he has been outclassed in a few occasions, so his accuracy stat is pretty low, but strike for strike, I would consider him an accurate puncher. Strikes absorbed. This looks pretty damn bad. He actually has a great guard and pretty good defense, rolls with punches real well. It's just, you'll see later in the video, Max Holloway did a number on him, and yeah, just kind of ruined his career stats. Anyway, let's move on, and that's where we'll break it down. He debuted against Andre Fili, who is a good generalist, but mostly just a journeyman, and these days is quite out of date. Not a lot of evolution in his game, but at the time, trying to be a young contender, and these numbers are closer than I remember. I remember the fight quite clearly. Kattar faster, stronger, tougher, quicker to the punch, more accurate. Even shot some takedowns in there and got them, which was good. Not a lot of control time, just to mix it up, bank some rounds. He wins. Yeah, so we have close, significant strikes, but clear 30-27s across the board. He had a great debut. Andre Fili, no threat for him. Then the next one was real big, against undefeated at the time Shane Hurricane Burgos. This is an awesome fight, just two strikers going head to head. Burgos with a really awkward but dangerous style, and great durability throughout his career, but Kattar did starch him here with just a beautiful looking uppercut and some good ground and pound to just finish it off. See here, Burgos has a good rally in the second round, coming out on strikes. Kattar took round one, and in round three he found his finish right away, right off the opening bell. It's a great KO. Gets a fight of the night bonus, so it was pretty flashy competitive. Then he took a surprising loss to MOICANO in the early days. One of MOICANO's early fights, I don't believe it was his debut, but MOICANO entered the UFC undefeated, I believe, and honestly schooled Kattar with low kicks. It was interesting how just sort of out of his depth he was in terms of checking leg kicks, educated footwork. Just couldn't catch MOICANO with punches. He stayed real disciplined. Kattar even shot for a takedown, failed it. And yeah, just struggled in these rounds. 2 30-27 scorecards for MOICANO. But not the worst ass whooping in the world. It's a good learning lesson for Kattar. Basically just got his boxing style kind of put in check by low kicks real bad. And yeah, wasn't able to kind of turn it up to that next level and take out MOICANO. Just kind of showed that Calvin Kattar was a little one-dimensional, just wanting to throw hands. And yeah, MOICANO didn't play that game, did his thing. And in these later rounds, MOICANO's leg work opened up some like beautiful combinations for him. Just shows like if you find openings in your opponent's game for kicks, it absolutely opens up your hands, because MOICANO had some tasty combos in this fight, which he's not really known for. Nowadays, he's kind of just like a body lock guy and takes you to the ground, does good sub work, but this is 145. He had a bit of a size advantage on these guys, and yeah, he had some real good striking. But he bounced back big against Chris FISHGOLD, the most UK last name I've ever heard, and just got back to work. Did some real good boxing in this fight. I think broke the nose of FISHGOLD, hopped on a finish. Yeah, just went for the finish right from the get-go. Great bounce back. And Ricardo Lamas broke his jaw. And we really do have to take this win with a grain of salt, because this was after Ricardo Lamas was, sent to the Shadow Realm, completely lights out by Josh Emmett. I mean, it looked like he was put in a coma in that fight. And yeah, his career just wasn't the same after that, only getting a win over Darren Elkins, who's damaged goods. It's still a great performance by Kattar. Came in, piston 1-2, broke Lamas's jaw. Good stuff. Kattar half and half to this head and body. And just had a real good finish. And Lamas used to be that guy, so I don't want to completely just look past his technical skills. But Kattar just forced a fist fight here. Looks like Lamas did shoot his takedown and didn't get it, and Kattar just made him super uncomfortable, understood the range real well. I think he definitely had the height on a lot of these opponents. Kattar's kind of a nice 5'11", good reach, good frame, and yeah, had enough power to put Lamas away. It was a great win, and he's putting together a decent little streak to get back. Then gets, the talk of the town here. We have Zabit MAGOMEDSHARIPOV. This, if you know, this fight doesn't sit right with a lot of UFC fans. But let's talk about the fight first, and then I will move on to sort of the controversy behind it. Zabit MAGOMEDSHARIPOV, a 6'1" featherweight, like completely lanked out. He was a very creative striker and had good, sambo ground skills. Had a perfect UFC run with some finishes in there, but ended his career after this Kattar fight, which is interesting because, well, first of all, he had a decent performance in rounds 1 and 2. Kattar really struggling to land, seeing as Zabit is very tall, very rangy, very fast, and has the ground skills to back it up. So that can really put a striker on edge. They have to be careful with every engagement. And that shows here with Kattar's low accuracy. Not great. 15 total strikes in round 1. Zabit did some good work. Lots and lots of leg kicking. Smart move from Zabit. So round 1, Zabit. Round 2, Kattar's improving his output. Zabit is still ahead. The accuracy is kind of narrowing here. Zabit goes for 2 takedowns and does not get them. Probably still a Zabit round on this bit of an advantage in the striking. But things are starting to turn. Zabit experiences sort of a gas out, a bit of a cardio dump in the 3rd round, and we see Kattar take over in the volume. And Zabit, a bit more desperate for the takedown, gets it, but can't control Kattar. And we see the fight start to slip away from, like an 18-1 big Russian prospect. Kattar did great work in that 3rd round and had plenty of cardio, more to go. But did lose 2-1, which is sad. Yeah, leg kicks, got Zabit ahead, and sort of his build played a factor for sure, and his grappling base. But we're talking close fight. We're talking real close fight. One of those fights where, we see the guy who's losing really start to pick it up in that 3rd round and make adjustments and, really tap into that dog and really bring it out. But it was too little too late for Kattar. He just couldn't get it done. But something interesting happened here, and this fight was marked down as 3 rounds when main events are always 5-round bouts, 25 minutes in main event situations. And I don't know why. Maybe because Zabit Magomedsharipov was, a massive Russian star, the next big thing coming out of Russia, big flashy striker, and he has these crazy ground skills. Rear naked choke, anaconda choke, Suluev stretch, banana split on Brandon Davis. So this guy was slowly becoming a star out of Russia. And funny enough, this was UFC Moscow, Russia, and they made it a 3-round main event. Just completely fucking over Kattar, bending the rules, the UFC bending over to the Russians. Yeah, interesting stuff. Kattar's a dog. He accepts the fight. I mean, he showed that give this fight 2 more rounds and he could switch things around. His career would be completely different. He would have just shut out a massive prospect, and we're talking completely different career trajectory from this moment forward. Whatever, they give him fight of the night. He gains the respect in the eyes of the fan base. Big red flag over Zabit, and he cuts his career short after this. He is released from the UFC. He says, I quit. I want to go become a doctor for whatever reason. But yeah, big cardio hole in his game, and very, very suspicious that the UFC would reduce his main event to 3 rounds, 15 minutes, and he was breaking in the 3rd round. So you can call it a conspiracy, call it whatever you want. It just fucks over Calvin Kattar, and doesn't sit right with me. Really pisses me off, but he's a dog. He takes the fight, thinks he can still win it, and comes real close to actually winning it, almost pulling out a finish in that 3rd round as Zabit gasses and quits the sport. Again, like his other loss, amazing rebound against Jeremy Stephens. These two just go to war. And people don't really do that with Jeremy Stephens. They try to out-technique Stephens, but it was a huge bounce back, and both of them just damaged the crap out of each other. Jeremy Stephens, in the final exchange, this elbow that finished Jeremy Stephens, they both just collide, cause heavy damage, but we can see Stephens just doing good work throughout the fight with leg kicks. Stephens has great leg kicks, so a great weapon to use here against Kattar, and he did in the 1st round. But, Kattar not going anywhere, staying dangerous, not veering away from Stephens, getting right in his face, and brought out elbows. We haven't really seen that from Kattar up until this point. Brought out these nasty elbows that he's become quite known for, and a rare Jeremy Stephens KO loss. He's incredibly hard to finish, always has been. Calvin Kattar steps in with an elbow, splits his face open, and gets his own nose broken in the process. So crazy, bloody exchange, crazy war. I definitely recommend checking it out. Here are the land rates. We actually have, Jeremy Stephens not backing down. He's usually the guy that falls behind on volume, but really stood his base here, went after Kattar. But Kattar with the kill shot in round 2. Beautiful step-in elbow. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Another performance. No performance bonus. Are we serious? Oh, okay. Ngannou, Rosenstruik, and Gaethje Ferguson. Still, man. Pay the man for this finish. It was beautiful stuff. And then so a brutal finish, and then shortly after, in July, an outclassing of Dan Ige. This is a win that's aged greatly, because Dan Ige is still, at the top of the sport, top 15, top 10, doing his thing, showing growth in his game. I know he's lost to pretty much every prospect out there, but super underrated win. And just was really active every round, I remember. Dan Ige, big power thrower, knockout thrower, and very educated striking performance from Kattar. 4-1, 4-1, and 3-2 on the scorecards. Calvin Kattar getting a takedown, a little bit of control. Dan Ige actually shooting 9 takedowns in this fight and not landing any. Kattar just feet too quick, not letting Ige send him to the ground, resisting every takedown attempt. And the accuracy and the output, mostly in favor of Kattar. Ige doing better work in the 2nd round, but Calvin just a step ahead. Rounds 4 and 5, we see some, possible panic shooting from Ige. Not a good look. A great win on volume from Kattar. This was great. He did have, I think, like 4 inches of reach and height in this bout, so definitely used that to his advantage. But the activity from Kattar is just too much. I mean, some of these fights, his accuracy is not great, but just look at this output. 260 attempted significant strikes, just jab city. Very, very hard to deal with. Coming from the New England cartel. Him and Rob Font, their boxing is really interesting. Calvin Kattar with more of, this sort of swarming volume and sort of extended combinations, whereas Rob Font has just heavyweight-sized hands and is more intent on, clubbing people, landing knockouts, and sort of landing a more punishing jab. So both of their boxing styles, really recommend them. Super entertaining. Now we discuss a very dark moment in the career of Calvin Kattar. An incredible moment for Max Holloway, but in the context of this video, just a nightmare situation. So we have a 5-round main event. We have Max Holloway against Calvin Kattar. Veteran versus, prospect. Kattar doing his thing. He was on the come up. He was bouncing back from these losses and ascending the rankings in impressive fashion. But I believe they're a similar age, or Kattar's even older. Yeah, so this fight, Max Holloway setting the UFC strike record for most strikes landed in a fight, attempting 744 significant strikes and landing 445. Just the stuff of nightmares. I mean, it's an absolutely phenomenal main event in terms of Max Holloway's cardio, for one, just to not ever slow down in any of these rounds, and if anything, ramp it up. I mean, the 4th round was just, his combination didn't really end. It's just nonstop assault from Holloway. And Calvin Kattar, his game just fell apart against Holloway because, first of all, Holloway's big. Holloway is probably one of the more serious weight cutters in 145. And Calvin Kattar just didn't get any respect with his punches. I mean, he was like, you get walked down, and this is what happens. This should never, ever happen unless there's kind of a power issue. Holloway, tougher, heavier, better cardio, more volume, which all just strip apart the game of Calvin Kattar to nothing. He was completely outclassed. Kattar showed, inhumane toughness, sickening toughness, didn't back down, didn't quit, stayed on his feet through the entire fucking fight, which is insane. And yeah, after the fight, Dana's like, get this guy to a hospital. Oh my God. Yeah. Nasty record-setting performance from Holloway. Kattar is an animal for sustaining this beating. Let's take a closer look at just the work that Holloway did. Didn't even really go to leg kicks, just had so much fun with his hands. And Kattar just trying to get respect back in the same domain. Did not happen. A bad loss, a loss so crushing that I think in the back of all our minds we thought his career is just done. There's no way you can come back from a performance like this. Yes, he didn't get finished, but a beating just unlike we've ever seen. 50-43, 50-43, 50-42, which I believe is 3 10-8 rounds for Holloway. Just awful, awful loss. So what does Kattar do? He takes the year. You have to sit out and make sure first of all, make sure there's no, I mean, obviously there's long-term consequences. This is cage fighting, but gets back in there in a year, takes exactly 1 year off to come back against a pure striker, Giga Chikadze, kind of new guy on the block, and really puts Giga through the same blender that he was just put through. I mean, this is one of Kattar's most fun fights just because of the circumstances that happened to him a year before. We thought he was going to just be done. I was expecting a completely washed up, brittle Kattar, and that's not what happened. He came in, technical, back on his usual shit. Bit of a tentative first round and a smart takedown against a pure striker, Giga, who has really hard kicks, really hard punches. But then it was just an onslaught, just a downhill battle. Giga began gassing out. I think he had a bit of an adrenaline dump or just sort of a gas out early in the fight. And Kattar just put his foot on the gas and never let go. You know, the accuracy is not great. Again, from Kattar, just kind of a barrage of volume. The output's great every time. The output's great. Giga's trying to match it, but he is just getting wailed on every single round. He's not a guy that can go to takedowns. And to be fair, he stands his ground the whole fight. You know, like I said, Kattar put him through the blender that he just had to go through with Holloway. You know, he kind of got the rub off of Holloway in terms of how bad you can beat someone in a cage, and really took some elements of that and put it into his own game. Won every single round against a ranked contender. So proved that he's not out of the sport. This should have been another rebuilding from Kattar. Yes, he's getting older. Yes, he will never be the same after what just happened to him. But great win. Another fight of the night. I mean, all these fight of the night bonuses kind of show that it's a close competitive scrap, but he's getting paid on the way up with bonus money. And he's headed towards the top 5 and gets a main event spot against Josh Emmett. And quite honestly, one of the saddest robberies I've ever had the displeasure of sitting through. Not because it wasn't a close fight, but just because of the circumstances. Like the adversity we had just seen Kattar come through. And to just get robbed against Josh Emmett, who's just winging power and missing 90% of it. Like, basically, we have two men that decided to strike for 5 rounds. Kattar with his output, splitting apart the face of Josh Emmett, swelling eyes, causing cuts, and no damage on the face of Kattar at the end of the fight, not a scratch. Josh Emmett doing the best he can to wing back heavy power, and some of it's landing. Some of it is landing on most of it to the body of Kattar, I believe. But when we're talking damage versus damage in this fight, it is such a clear win from Kattar. Very intelligent guard, has a heavy high guard placed onto his head at all times. Josh Emmett's big bombs are just glancing off of it. But it's these big moments of like roid rage from Josh Emmett, the 5'6" Josh Emmett just crashing forward like a demon. That can sway judges. I mean, Kattar is just pinging him throughout this whole fight, and I think he dropped 1 round in terms of output. The second round, and this third, like, I don't even buy these stats, man. Like, you can't tell me this amount of volume from Josh Emmett actually lands. They're bouncing off elbows half the fight. His accuracy should be like 10%, and this will be one of the rare times I argue with stats with these recorded numbers. And I think anyone who's seen the fight, you will tend to agree. Most of Josh Emmett's volume are just bouncing off arms and shoulders and elbows. Shoulders, knees, and toes. Like, fuck. And it's so sad. Another just loss of momentum for Kattar when he's doing the right things, making the adjustments, rebuilding his career. And yes, you can argue he should just starch a guy like Josh Emmett because he beat Jeremy Stephens and Jeremy Stephens beat Josh Emmett. But just a style where he's going to have to take the decision, you know. He doesn't really have the pop to, I guess, finish a guy like Josh Emmett. So he does the next best thing and just rips apart Josh Emmett's face. I can't even show it on screen. The video will get flagged probably for violence. Swelling the eyes, all this, and I just don't know how judges can... Yeah, it's interesting. Visible damage win for Calvin Kattar. Josh Emmett fails every takedown. A measly 4 seconds of control time. And so yeah, career derailed. Yeah, it sucks. Because now we're talking two times he was just completely fucked over by the UFC and the judges. It's very sad. Because he's an all-action fighter. That's all we want is, you know, high-volume punchers. One of my favorite styles. It will always be one of my favorite styles. You know, JDM, Josh Van, Calvin Kattar, high-volume boxing, gritty toughness, excellent cardio, good takedown defense. And it's just, he gets screwed over by just shit circumstances. And the career falls apart after this. I wonder why. The career falls apart after this. He draws Arnold Allen next. Arnold Allen, a great prospect. Coached by, I believe, Firas Zahabi, who now actually coaches the New England Cartel guys. He's sort of helping rebuild the career of Rob Font. But at the time, Kattar jumps and throws a flying knee, or just goes for a knee on Arnold Allen, lands on it, blows his ACL out. Like, you can't make this shit up. One of the saddest downfalls in the sport, in the featherweight division. Arnold Allen's a sweetheart, but yeah, it's awful. And then we get him on UFC 300, This is the last chance to really rebuild. The whole world's watching. Aljamain Sterling, former champion as well, moves up to the featherweight division, draws Calvin Kattar, grabs the easiest matchup for himself, I guess. Injury-prone volume striker. We should have seen this coming. Kattar shouldn't have taken the fight. Just take a contender, not a former champion. Oh well. Gets 30-27 with wrestling. Yeah. 8 strikes. It's just something's off. I think he was still gingerly on that leg. Almost 11 minutes of control from Sterling. A lot of takedowns, but I think 1 or 2 were like actually good suplexes or slams. Aljamain, great game plan, going straight for the win. Kattar just a shell of his former self in this fight. Going from like his 250 whatever strike perform, like the volume that he used to put out was just mind-blowing, and now there's none of that, at least against Sterling, who again is one of the better bantamweights, used to be a champion, so we can forgive it. And the most recent loss was frustrating because Calvin did win the 3rd round against Youssef Zalal, who's extremely technical. Shades of Dominic Cruz in terms of the footwork and the evasiveness built into his game. And, a decent finisher on regionals. In the UFC, he's had his failed run. Youssef Zalal, was cut from the promotion and now made the adjustments and is rebuilding. Good for him. But in this fight, a complete sprinter. Yes, he did win on volume. Failed his takedowns, which is good work. It shows that Kattar's not like a wimp on the ground. The takedown defense is still there. But now, he's just opening as an underdog now because he's against prospects. He's not on forward momentum anymore. He is having to defend his spot against the young, hungry guys. It's just the way it is. Just couldn't get a hold of Zalal in this first round. It sucks. If he came out in this 3rd round like he did in the first with that dog in him, because he showed he's still got the dog in him. But Zalal banked these first 2 rounds and then just sprinted in the 3rd. It's frustrating. Because Zalal's fun. He has good submission ability and everything. It's just the way he decided to win this fight was just kind of, it appeared cowardly, but it's very technical stuff. I'm just gutted for Kattar, man. And so we get to next week, and this fight is super, super interesting to me. So we do have the decline of Calvin Kattar against the surging Steve Garcia. I believe he's on a KO streak of about 5 or 6. Steve Garcia is diabolical. He's a big mutant. He's 6 feet tall, 145. So insane height and reach for a featherweight. Just a complete freak. Southpaw, trained by Jackson Wink, the camp of John Jones. So elite trained, super, super dangerous. Just comes out in the first round and tries to kill you. Very interesting stuff. And so I can do one of 2 things. I can wallow in my sadness for Calvin Kattar, or I can get excited about this fight because Steve Garcia has been knocked out cold in the past, so we know it can happen. He hangs the chin up in the air, but he is insanely aggressive, which makes this fight so fun because Calvin Kattar kind of needs an aggressive opponent. He knocked out Shane Burgos. He knocked out Jeremy Stephens. And in his last fight, he spent the later half of it trying to chase down Yusuf Zalal and just rip him apart with punches. This will be the complete opposite of that. Steve Garcia is going to go forward like he usually does and just try to size bully his opponent, try to knock them out. And so this could actually play into Calvin's favor. That is my heavy cope, is that a real aggressive striker trying to hunt Kattar down for once is actually going to play into his game. But it could not, because they're the injuries, and he relies on toughness, and the Holloway thing happened. So this could just be the nail in the coffin. It's tough though, because I don't really rate Steve Garcia. He's super dangerous, and he has KO'd 5 people. The Chase Hooper win's good. Hooper kind of threw that fight, but yeah, when we're talking resume and stuff, it's Calvin Kattar all day. He's been in there with champions. Steve Garcia's been in there with kind of nobody. So, super interesting fight. This decides the fate of Calvin Kattar. If he wins this, he's cut. The career's over, because he probably will lose by devastating KO at the hands of a mutant like Steve Garcia. But if he can derail a real prospect at 145, there is still hope. Because all credit to give credit to Steve Garcia, he has 5 KO finishes in a row. He's making great TV. But we're all fans of Calvin Kattar. I want to see him get it done. This is honestly a decent card. There's some big names on here. We got Derek Lewis, Stephen Thompson, Calvin Kattar, Nate Landwehr, if you know, you know, Nate the Train, Morgan Charrier, big name, big kickboxer. We get to see Austin Lane get highlighted. Chris Curtis, Chidi Njokuani. There's a few good matchups on here. I'll be tuning in. Yeah, Calvin Kattar, man, what can we say? He gave us some really special performances. He hung tough against Holloway when he very easily could have just quit, but he's got that Diaz toughness just hardwired into him. Absolute cinema. Just giving us everything we want out of the UFC. But he's on a skid. He's on a horrible skid. Now we pray to the MMA gods. That is it for my video, guys. Please let me know of how you feel about Calvin Kattar. He is one of the greats that never made it. Fucked over by the UFC in the Zabit fight. And fucked over by judges against Josh Emmett. His career could have really been something. But let's appreciate it for what it is. He's fighting Steve Garcia next weekend. Do not miss it. All right. That's it for the video. See you guys.